Chapter 1601. Can't use the door.
Carl sighed.
I take it that things are getting violent outside the dungeon, in excess of what would be considered normal for the trials that are always placed for dungeons like this?
Yes.
The Almixii sect has sent their sect leader to secure the area, which naturally enraged the Alhos, Pona, and Telhasex. The whole region is starting to turn into a standoff, with none of the groups willing to let anyone through. We've got 2 groups of elders waiting to enter the dungeon right now, and it doesn't look like they're going to get in any time soon. That is why I came to you. You have a way to get in, do you not? If you got out without anyone noticing, you should have a way back in. Carl frowned. He had never considered that. Technically, he should be able to open a portal into the dungeon trial. However, most of them had some sort of magic on the entrance, so he wasn't sure what would happen if they entered by another method. Possibly, entering a trial is a tricky sort of thing. Bypassing the proper entrance might not produce a desirable outcome. There is a chance that they will end up in the empty instance that we created the last time that we entered, or one from the last time they entered, or perhaps even just the most recently created one, which would cause even more issues if the group was full. The clan leader sighed.
All right.
In that case, I would like you to take Sham with you and test the theory first. If you can get in without being detected, that is perfect. If you can try to clear a few monsters in the instance you enter, that's even better. The elder will report back, but I suggest that only the 2 of you go on this trip. Minimizing the risk of a larger group being noticed by the clan leaders outside is best. Carl nodded. Well, that is good logic. I can try to open a portal to the dungeon location. I know where it is. I was just there. If I place it right inside the door, the risks are low, and we will find out if it brings us to a new instance. Clan leader Nerissa motioned for Carl to start. A portal was an easy thing to create, and while Alhos was on the far edge of the majority of most immortals' ability to open one without a destination array, it shouldn't be restricted if they arrived within the dungeon. Carl stared at the portal that had just opened. It wasn't showing anything on the other side at all. So, the first thing he did was poke a spear through it. There was no restriction, and nothing happened to the weapon when he retracted it. I guess it's just dark in there right now. Or the difference in locations stops me from seeing through. Here goes nothing. Carl stepped through before they could stop him, and found himself standing at the entrance to a fresh instance. Group member limit not met. Individual challenge mode activated. Challenger power calibrating void state 9 standard units. Hey, why are we throwing a party without invitations? Kara complained as she returned to her space, quickly followed by the rest of the beasts. Wait, where did everyone go? Dana asked. We're going on an adventure. But the Carl forgot to put the elder in his team. Leo explained. None of us are in a team. We dissolved it after the run. Dana reminded him. Oh, right. You won't be able to join us, either. That's going to be weird. What do we even do without the Dana mage on the team? Tion frowned. He hadn't gotten a chance to get the new bard skills that he wanted. Why was Carl in a hurry to go again? I wasn't planning to do a challenge. I couldn't see through the portal, and just stepped in to see if it was our old one, or if it reset. I can likely still leave. The portal is open to the clan leader's office. Carl? Are you alright in there? Elder Sham called from the office. I'm fine. I forgot to consider what would happen if I entered solo. You weren't in the group when I entered, and I can't add you now. It has reset, though. It's all good. You should be able to send a team through the portal to do the trial. Carl called back. I already tried to join you. I got a system message that I cannot enter the instance while another trial is in progress. So, are you coming back? The elder asked. Well, you see. You're going to try to do the challenge solo and get as much reward as humanly or inhumanly possible. Elder Sham finished. I'm glad that you understand, Elder. Would you like me to keep the portal open so that you can get a running commentary while I fight? Give me a moment. I believe that I can resolve the issue with not being able to see in. Instances are generally private. The blue or purple swirl you see is a privacy measure, differentiating them from a standard portal. But I can use remote viewing to see what is going on in there. Elder Sham agreed. That worked for Carl. The clan was going to be at least a bit shocked at what happened next, and it would be so much less stressful if Elder Fersham got to watch it firsthand instead of pressing him for details when he left. Dana, I'm about to start. Sorry for this, but it's too good to pass up. Let me know where you'll be, and I'll be back as soon as possible. Yeah, I figured that was the case when Ray and Kara vanished at the same time. Go ahead, I will be in the apartment, sorting the materials from the first run. Kara cheered, and Carl called out his summons, using Oathbreaker right from the start. The version he got from the last run was way better than any other epic golem that he had available, except perhaps the Plague Lord. Combined with the standard and greater golems, the undead army, the undead minions, and his bodyguards, Carl still had a fairly respectable group for the first pull, even before the rest of the team came out to play. Chapter 16:02 Not So Solo Challenge. Ray stared in pride at the collection of undead in front of them. Every one of these creatures was something that she had killed before. For a spider, there was no greater compliment to their work than to have it on such glorious display. Do you think that this will be the same difficulty as the last time? She asked hopefully. There was only the Carl team now, and they didn't even have the Dana Mage, but if the dungeon had dropped the difficulty by too much, it would be a tragedy. Kara agreed. The loot would drop right off in quality. Only one way to find out. Is everyone ready? Carl asked out loud, for the benefit of the elders listening. Tion giggled as he played a short tune on the zither, while sitting on Leo's back. Here he comes, Mr. Monster Man, here to smash whatever he can, the little fox sang. The first group of demons turned their way, and Ray laughed with joy. They were still epic grade. Carl called his clones, which appeared as world dragons, even though he was currently in human form. Not for long, as he activated Warbeast on himself and everyone else, shifting himself into an ornately armored cat demon. This felt much more natural in the dungeon. Dragon form was too big, and human form was too small. The Oathbreaker epic golems charged directly into battle, flashing in and out of existence to dodge attacks, while the rest of the golems were still running toward the fight. Let the dragons and Oathbreakers take the front lines. Hawk, Remy, Opal. Get the scene set. Same technique as before, we will pull them into us until we're ready to do the first boss. Only this time, we're doing it from the easiest boss first. That way, if they had to drop out for lack of numbers, they could at least get a boss or two done. The issue shouldn't be numbers, Carl realized. With the clones and the Oathbreakers, they had 4 tanks against 3 demons in each pull. Yes, they were epic grade, like every other dungeon's bosses. But they still only needed one large enough construct to tank them. Remy cheered as she figured out how to use Tribulation Chains, which were amazing when used in conjunction with the Naga Swamp and Leo's Thorn Vines spell. They nearly had the demons locked down, barely able to fight as they were hacked apart. Still, not even Kara was pushing for them to grab more before these 3 were finished. She was chaotic by nature, but utterly focused at the moment on trying to pickpocket the demons. The first of the demons collapsed as Leo gave it a gravity slam, enhanced flipper swat to the head, and the second fell to one of Hawk's meteors. That left only one for them to fight, and Hawk darted off to go get them more. They arrived just in time for the last one to fall, and the conveyor belt of monster kills was in motion. In the clan leader's office, Dana sat with Elder Fersham and Nerissa, watching Carl and the beasts make short work of the first pull. That really shouldn't count as a solo challenge, should it? Even before they started summoning, there were too many of them for a standard dungeon run. It seems that Carl being able to echo the beast skills while they also use his makes for excellent synergy. Clan leader Nerissa noted. Dana nodded. And he just got a new artifact that gives him an extra 20% damage in challenges. If that is a solo challenge, as I suspect it is, then he's doing even more damage than usual, and that will apply to his whole team. It looks like Opal's Toxic Fog is working exceptionally well on these demons. It was a lost cause against the Plague Lord that we started with last time, and she didn't really put emphasis on it later. This time, the mental damage it does seems to be slowing all the mobs by quite a bit. Elder Fersham nodded. Mental damage often causes side effects. It's also much less likely to be resisted than elemental damage. These Wrath demons will take reduced damage from fire, so the bird isn't at peak efficiency. But when he gets to the succubi closer to the second boss, Lady Ray's shadow damage attacks will do less, and fire will do more than usual. That makes sense. It also looks like he's got all epic grade mobs, and some stronger ones as bosses. So, it's not too different from the one we did as a group, though it looks like the power level is adjusted a bit lower for the solo challenge. The clan leader made a short note, and then shook her head. The damage output appears to be at the same level that you described in the debriefing, but the health pool of the monsters is lower. I don't know if I would call it an overall lower power level, only adjusted for a solo fight instead of a large group engagement. Unfortunately for the dungeon, it got a large group and not a solo Carl. Dana laughed. The thought of Carl fighting a fair solo fight, when he doesn't have to, is a bit ridiculous. If the dungeon let the beasts come out, naturally, they're joining the fight. But even if they didn't, he would still have nearly half that number of golems. What I really want to know is why Leo can use greater golems, but not any of the other summoning spells. He's got a pair of crocolisks, but that is it. It doesn't make any sense. Perhaps it's an understanding issue? He might not know any suitable aquatic monsters for the other spells. Many monster species are limited in that way. Now, that makes perfect sense. They all have their own specialties, and they can't use all of each other's skills. So, them not being able to use all of Carl's skills either is something that I really should have considered. That's the same reason I haven't been able to transfer some of my skills to Carl. Well, part of the reason. I do need to make some skill books, and try to grant the ones he might be able to use to him as well. Chapter 1603. A Good Day Inside. Ray looked down at the pile of corpses beneath her.
Today was a good day.
These demons weren't quite as durable as the other ones, but they were just as dangerous, and the blood was just as good. The amount of bathwater that she had acquired in the last 2 days was astounding, and they were only at the first boss of their second run. Doing the run in this order would make the end very difficult, but that might be for the best. The harder the last boss was, the better the reward, right? This was an individual challenge for Carl, so surely it would give him the best rewards if he made it as challenging as possible for himself. Who is going to pull the boss? She asked, impatient to keep moving. Tion looked up with a piece of jerky in his mouth. Give me free seconds. Kara laughed and flapped her wings to race off toward the boss. Where are you going? I'm still eating. The little fox complained. 2 seconds left. Tion grumbled at his sister taking him literally, but he did say 3 seconds. On the other side of the portal, the 3 spectators winced as Kara reached the boss and then proceeded to use her claws to give the confused Wrath demon a nipple twister. I am going to destroy you. The boss roared as the badger laughed and crawled across his chest to latch onto the center of his back, where he could only swing his sword at her ineffectually. Carl sent the dragon clones forward and then engaged from a distance with Chaos Vortex. It was the highest damage skill that he had. With Kara on his back, the demon had no real defense against it. Did that count as tanking the boss? She definitely had its attention. Ray took advantage of the situation to get the bleeding started. Wrath demon blood of this quality was not easy to obtain outside an upgraded trial. You simply didn't find anything with a constitution higher than epic anywhere else. But she had grand plans for this bath. Clan leader Narissa shook her head in dismay as Remy set up a mana pylon and Tion set an area healing spell centered on Carl to supplement Remy's healing totems. The damage they were taking was very similar to last time, which meant that things were going to become problematic when they got to the Oathbreaker, but for this boss, just Tion's area healing plus the totems were enough to keep everyone fully charged and ready. The Wrath demon struggled to control the attacks of the 2 world dragon-sized clones, while the rest of the team and the summoned constructs tore into its body. However, Carl did notice one very interesting fact. The golems were exceptional, there was no doubt about that. But compared to the damage of his beasts, they were still lacking. In theory, he had as much attack power as any of them, so the construct should have been as good as any other skill, but they didn't do as much as his own attack skills, and definitely not as much damage as Ray and Kara were doing to the boss. Remy and Hawk were a bit behind on the boss, but their skills were both better suited to large groups. Not that pelting the boss with meteors and flaming vortexes was ineffective, It just didn't pack the constant damage of the two melee-focused sisters. Each of the team members had their own niche, it seemed. The clones were actually taking Leo's at the moment, but the turtle was happy to keep Bulwark up in front of them to soak damage while he used nature magic to entangle the boss in vines and slow its attacks. Carl considered using Tribulation Chains, but the boss wasn't doing enough damage to warrant going all out on the control skills. It was better to just continue to pour attacks at him and watch the health meter continue to drop. Bappity bappity bappity, Kara sang as she attacked from somewhere that Carl couldn't see, and the boss roared in rage. Then it spun to face her, completely ignoring everyone else as it tried to tear the wayward badger to pieces. He even flew up after her, chasing Kara through the skies and inadvertently pulling more groups of demons. "What are you doing? Get back here!" Carl shouted as Kara laughed and nimbly dodged the demon's axe. He didn't have to see the attack to know that she had done something that 110% deserved his wrath. But they didn't have time for her to be going on an adventure through the dungeon, pulling everything as the boss chased her. "Hawk, Remy, you're up. When she gets close, get the area spells up. Leo, you're on bulwark duty. Tion, keep everyone's health high. There are going to be a lot of demons here very soon." And there were. Kara had pulled nearly everything up to and including the second boss, with the ones she hadn't pulled on the first pass joining the convoy as she returned on Carl's orders. All he could do was sigh in resignation as the herd rushed toward them, and then use the Amulet of Destruction to summon a fresh pair of Oathbreakers 1 sub-rank higher than usual, making them ascended rank immortal bosses. The demons laughed as they saw the situation, and Carl felt their power surge as Predation and the other group buffs flowed into the two fresh summons. "You're too kind," Oathbreaker joked as he saw what was coming for them. "If we had known this was all it took, I would have asked the badger to do it from the start." The other one agreed. Great, they were on Kara's team. Or perhaps it was Ray's team, kill everything that moves, that they were on. The final outcome was about the same, and surprisingly, they hadn't been summoned at the very bottom of Ascended rank. They were about halfway up, average for the progression level that they were called at. Perhaps this wasn't a losing battle after all. Chapter 1604. With all the demons. Elder for Sham turned to Dana as Kara flew off with the boss in the middle of a fight. That was horrific. Dana shrugged. "She's like that. You get used to it. If she keeps it up, I suspect that the Wrath demons will reconsider kilts as a fashion statement. I've never seen anyone brave enough to try to use their testicles as a punching bag before, though." For Sham added, "You know how they call the species a chaos badger? I think that she took it as a personal challenge. If you don't specifically tell her not to do dumb stuff, she will do whatever she thinks will be the most fun. And if it's just her siblings and Carl, she doesn't see any reason to hold back. However, this might be enlightening. The Oathbreaker demons spread damage with every hit. Now that she's pulled a full quarter of the dungeon and a second boss to the same location, the amount of area damage between them, Hawk and Remy, is going to be absolutely insane."
There. See?
Opal has put her illusionary domain in place to summon more Naga Guardians to defend the area, and the enraged demons of a dungeon instance aren't coherent enough to realize that they're being baited by realistic illusions. In the dungeon, Kara was laughing hysterically as she flitted around the boss, spinning him in circles as he raged. "And for our next trick, I will perform a vanishing act,"
Kara joked.
Opal giggled as she cast invisibility on her sister, leaving the boss raging without a visible target to engage. He was still taking damage, and he didn't understand why. But he was not happy about the situation. Then he realized that he had backup, and the two Wrath demons went for the next best target. The massive dragons. If anything was responsible for messing up their day, it was almost certainly the fault of a dragon. Who else would dare? With the two bosses under control, everyone else focused on area damage, while Carl and Leo focused on trying to keep the defensive barriers up. It was taking both Bulwark and Eternal Lightning to keep the damage taken under control, or at a level that Tion and Remy could compensate for. While the entire group had an insane regeneration rate, you weren't intended to pull 60 bosses at a time. Carl had gone entirely to defensive casting to support Opal's illusions. Tribulation Chains held most of the mobs in place while Oathbreaker went wild on them, aiming for the least armored targets to maximize the damage spread by its skills. The haze of fire, ice, and poison fog was so thick that the spectators could barely see what was going on. The best that they could do was use their system interface to watch the health meters of the creatures steadily declining as elemental storms raged, lightning crackled in the sky, and meteors fell from the heavens onto the fight. It really does look like the end of the world, clan leader Nerissa noted as she watched the spectacle in the dungeon. Ironic, considering that both the fire and ice are different versions of the Apocalypse spell, which includes the elemental vortex tornadoes and the majority of the meteors. That dark flame that Hawk is using looks like it's exceptionally effective on a large group. It's terrible to try to put out, and it burns the soul, Dana noted. How are they staying alive? Elder for Sham asked, unable to comprehend how so many boss-level monsters hadn't simply crushed the group. Carl has something like 80% damage reduction. I don't know if the system caps it, but I suspect that he's at the cap when fully buffed. That spreads to all his constructs and beasts. With their regeneration rate being higher than Trollish regeneration, it's not that they're not taking damage, it's just that they've got most of the monsters locked down fighting illusions, while they recover nearly as fast as the ones fighting can deal damage. I see how it is now. As insane as it is, it at least makes logical sense. Clan leader Nerissa chuckled grimly and shook her head. I would suggest not using the L word for anything related to an avatar of the World Dragon and a Chaos Badger working together. You might as well just throw a cleric of the Laughing God in as their healer and blow it all to hell. Dana shuddered at the thought. Don't suggest that. Carl's already fond of them. We'll just stick with trying to promote green dragons as the group's healers. The clan leader smiled at her. Good option. They fit the vibe. But how did you end up with him? Dana shrugged. Sometimes I wonder the same thing, you know? But we started school together right after we got our class. We've kind of been inseparable ever since. We work well together, and I was one of the few who could keep up with his growth rate without being scared off by Ray. She's surprisingly protective. Really? She doesn't seem the sort. Elder for Sham noted. She used to cocoon the teachers for trying to wake me up in the morning. The two older immortals laughed. I can only imagine how terrified the teacher would have been to be attacked by Ray after entering a room to wake a student. Dana laughed. Ray is remarkably reserved most of the time. She definitely enjoys killing, but she's not indiscriminately bloodthirsty. In fact, she's actually quite discerning about whose blood she spills. But when she was little, she used to hate waking up during the day and lived on coffee if she had to. Elder for Sham frowned. Don't spiders get drunk on caffeine? So many things made more sense now. Dana knew that a simple cup of coffee wasn't enough to put an early morning grumpy Ray into that good of a mood after standing watch all night. But if you equated that coffee to a mug of ale, suddenly it made more sense that she didn't mind staying up late. Chapter 1605. Skip to the boss. Ray hummed happily as she piled bodies in the dungeon for a quick photo op before they moved on. They had finished the two bosses and all the extras, thanks to Tribulation Chains, spam casting keeping everyone in place, while Oathbreaker spread his area damage through the dungeon. She was definitely going to have to learn that skill. It was not optional. She struck a pose, both in spider form, then in human form with Oathbreaker on either side of her for a group celebration, ensuring that Opal had all the scenes that she needed for her upcoming docudrama. The butterfly was quite proud of how her illusions were stacking up now that she had so many skills to buff illusionary domain. Forest Trickster was especially good at keeping the extra demons lost and confused within the Naga Swamp, where they couldn't get a clear view of the actual battle. They were only a few dozen meters away, bound by tribulation chains, but the spell would still cause them to lunge off in the wrong direction as they broke free and tried to join the battle. So, she was in high spirits when they approached the third boss, who looked visibly nervous at the group approaching his platform. That level of mind-controlled blind aggression was still there, but even Carl could see the shift in its posture, already preparing for a fight that it knew it couldn't win. It feels like we're bullying the boss now. Do I have to mock him?
Tion asked.
That was his only skill for pulling mobs, after all.
Don't worry.
I will take care of it for you. Oathbreaker announced as he strutted toward the platform. "Oh, little cousin, come out and play." Ray laughed. "I like this guy. We should keep him around more often." Oathbreaker likely wouldn't mind, but it would definitely cause a commotion within the clan if they brought him back. Oathbreaker was many things, but subtle was not one of them. Dana and the elders watched in horror as the boss was held down and mugged, both literally and metaphorically. Kara considered leaving him something as a consolation prize after she had used pilfer until nothing else would come from the boss. She had even taken his boots. But they were going to kill him anyhow, so there really wasn't any point in wasting food on him. In the clan leader's office, the three spectators turned to each other in silent understanding. "I think that it would be best if we didn't broadcast this. I had considered letting the butterfly put on a show as a guide to help others make their way through the dungeon, but that is not advisable." Elder for Sham noted. "I will make sure that she tells everyone it is a drama, not a reenactment. It shouldn't be an issue. Nobody is going to believe that they actually held down a boss while they stripped and beat him before killing him. That's just pure goon behavior, and nobody would buy that it actually happened." Nerissa smirked at her. "Oh, I think that anyone who knows Kara will believe she would do it. It's only a matter of capability." Carl stared at the third boss. He was about 90% sure that the boss was faking it, but the dungeon assured him that he was defeated, and they could move on to the next. It had given them the reward and all. They quickly cleared the mobs to the Oathbreaker, and then Carl watched in amusement as the three identical demons stared at each other and held some sort of silent conversation. Then, the boss left the platform, and the three skipped off with their hands linked, intending to fight the other mobs. System error. Trial prematurely cancelled. Kara howled with laughter at the sight of the three Oathbreakers rampaging through the dungeon. They had completely and utterly broken this place. Dana stared through the viewing spell at the system message floating in front of Carl. They actually broke it. Like broke it. Trial cancelled, and the boss has turned on the dungeon. She muttered, trying to make it make sense. But now Ray and Kara were skipping along with them between packs of demons, and all she could do was sigh and look at the clan leader. "Supreme Lady Nerissa, can I make a request? I would like to ask that we all just pretend this never happened." Slowly, the clan leader nodded. "I will note it as a possible glitch in the trial caused by bypassing the proper entrance. Also, that third boss isn't actually dead. I just saw him open his eye to see if they were gone." Seconds later, Carl found himself and the whole team standing in the clan leader's house. Or near it. Leo was too big to fit inside in turtle form, as were Ray and Oathbreaker. Carl quickly dismissed all the summoned creatures, and the beasts transformed to fit in the room more easily. Mostly that meant humanoid, but Hawk had chosen demon crow form, as he could just stand on Carl's shoulder when he was that size. "Well, I guess you could say that we won. I've got a prize box in my inventory," he noted. "That's one way of putting it. We were watching, and I believe that it might be better that next time you try to open a portal nearly overlapping the dungeon entrance so that a team can pass through the conventional entrance. Your alternate entry method appears to have some sort of flaw." "I agree. We didn't even get to finish the bosses. But perhaps that is part of the solo challenge? It's difficult to tell unless we try it again. If the teams are fighting over the region, we could likely sneak a portal in the middle of the chaos without anyone noticing," Carl suggested. Nerissa shook her head. "No, they've got the area blocked from the outside, no portals into the immediate area. So, we would have to send an actual team there to contest the region. I think that this opening might be a write-off. How many teams do we usually get through during a regular appearance of the instance?" "Usually 2 a day. Then this really would be a loss for them. Hopefully the other sects would sort out their fight soon." Then Kara's cheering caught everyone's attention. "Hey, I got another challenge token. I like this system." Chapter 1606. Breath of the World. The clan leader wasn't sure what to say to that. Changing the difficulty of one dungeon was already enough chaos for 1 month. Hell, it was enough chaos for 1 year, as the sects would be fighting over the trial the next time it appeared as well, until they found the method to change the difficulty on their own. That was unlikely to happen, but now they knew that it was possible, so they would not give up easily. It was definitely going to be a hassle for the new home, Nerissa knew. However, she could blame it on a token, and there wouldn't be much that the Sex could do about it. If a single-use artifact changed the difficulty for everyone, that was just a side effect of a stronger group trying to get the most out of their run, which was something every group should strive for. They couldn't blame her people for doing what was best for them, even if it made the other groups look weak or unprepared. Especially if it made the other Sex teams look weak. None of the clan leaders would willingly admit that the difficulty was too high for anyone in their sect to complete it. Not when everyone knew that someone had actually done it. They might be speculating on who it was, but they wouldn't admit it wasn't them unless called out. Alright, why don't you open your reward and see what you got for half a challenge? The clan leader insisted. Carl took out the reward box, which was glowing with an ominous red light. Wait, just 1 second. Kara insisted. Her head darted forward, and she frowned. You can't touch it. The light is a solid barrier. The clan leader shrugged. That was fairly normal. The system reward boxes weren't a solid object. They would vanish once opened. Carl touched the box and focused on opening it. Rewards granted. Rewards increased by Iron Man title. Then the loot box vanished, and dozens of epic grade items appeared on the desk in front of him. Oh, there's some good stuff in here. Leo cheered, then took out a pair of leather gloves that matched the boots he wore in Tortillon form. Wait, before you equip and bind those, I have an idea. Carl informed him. Reluctantly, Leo put the gloves back, and Carl prepared to cast Breath of the World. Breath of the World, artifact grade crafting skill. When used during crafting, imbues items with the power of the World Dragon, increasing quality by 1 grade. When used on magical items or resources, improves quality by 1 grade. Hidden effect, when used by a World Dragon or World Dragon avatar, can be used to create sentient items, imbued with system functionality. If used on a non-sentient or nascent magical beast, this skill will trigger immediate evolution into a sentient form 1 rank in potential higher than its base. Breath of the World activated. Rerolling items. The loot on the table all shimmered, and then Leo found himself staring at a whole table full of similar, but not quite identical items. Everything that was epic grade was now what the system called peerless grade. That was what Carl and the others would have called totem grade back in their own world. But this was a much better name for it. After all, totem was a mortal ranking thing, and it didn't really fit for grading immortal items. He grabbed the gloves and examined them again. Oh, still very good. The color is a bit off, but I can live with it. I like these. He cheered. They weren't actually great gloves, at least in the conventional sense. They had strength and constitution bonuses on them were absolutely ridiculous, but they didn't have a special ability or embedded skill. They did have all elemental resistance, though. That made them worth wearing, in Leo's opinion. They made him stronger, more durable, and harder to damage. That was all he wanted out of gear. It didn't need to give him some special new skill. What was that? Elder for Sham asked. You like it? That's the Breath of the World. One of my class skills. I can use it on unbonded loot to give it a reroll, with a good chance at an upgrade. It looks like I have good luck today, and I see some truly impressive loot in this pile. Speaking of which, I still have all my items from the first run, so once I've sorted out the good stuff for future use, I should go to the warehouse and turn some of this in. I don't know if they're going to love or hate you. Nerissa joked. Definitely hate me. Min was already considering calling in sick until everyone else in the group turned in their loot from the run yesterday. I can guarantee that she doesn't want to be there when all of this gets listed in the clan's inventory. Too many members watch the inventory list with a filter, and they will see the moment that these peerless grade items come active. Elder for Sham eyed the pile of items with envy. There were things in there that he would personally love to acquire. Epic grade items weren't hard for an elder to get their hands on if they wanted them. But anything over that rarely came up for sale. The fact that Carl could make loot at epic grade into peerless grade items needed to be kept quiet. However, Carl had said there was a chance, which implied that there was a chance it would also fail. Downgrading a whole run's loot by 1 grade would drive many groups to the brink of despair. You don't mind if I take a look, do you? There are some nice things here, and I might want to purchase some directly. He offered. Of course, Elder. Clan leader, if you would like anything, perhaps for your personal disciples, feel free to peruse the loot. You are a considerate one. I won't stand on ceremony. My new disciples certainly could use a reward for their hard work. Chapter 1607. Call the Warehouse. While the clan leader sorted through the pile of peerless grade gear, Elder Fersham called the elder in charge of the warehouse to come see them. Instead of sending Carl there to cause a massive scene, they could have it all done here and let the clan members think that it was one of the clan leaders or a trade ship that brought back all the good stuff. Nobody outside this room was likely to know that they had let Carl go to the dungeon a second time, and all the other members were waiting for the fights outside the entrance to die down so that they could start visiting again. The fact that it was on nightmare difficulty only made it more attractive to everyone. The elder arrived confused as to why he had been summoned to the clan leader's office so soon after their last meeting, but his eyes went wide when he saw the immense wealth arrayed on the desk. Clan leader Nerissa had just finished picking out a mithril chain vest and a straight-bladed broadsword for her disciple as he entered, and she quickly put them in storage, so they weren't mistaken as part of the rewards to be sold. Carl and Dana had already discreetly picked out some items for themselves, things that were better than what they already had, but that still left dozens of pieces from the 2 runs Carl had made. Welcome, welcome. We have called you here to make your day just a little bit worse. Nerissa greeted him with a polite gesture towards a chair that he was unlikely to use. How did you acquire all of this? This gear is wonderful. Every elder is going to want something before I make this treasure trove public. He noted. Nerissa nodded. Indeed. Even I found a few pieces that I wanted for my personal disciple. That's why Elder Fersham called you in here. You are the warehouse elder. Distribution falls under your purview. Fersham smiled, and Carl laughed in Carl's mind. The elder had definitely wanted to cause chaos and put these items up on the market. The clan leader was the one stopping him from trying to convince the warehouse elder to do it. After they both got a little something for themselves, of course. Why don't we start with an estimate on what is left there? I've taken what I needed. Dana has the pieces she needs, so the rest will be sold to the clan.
Carl suggested.
You were the source of this? Carl nodded. The nightmare mode dungeon glitched out when I opened a loot chest, and the result is what you see here. Since I've gotten what I need, this is my chance to spread the wealth and help out the clan. Fersham stared at him incredulously, while clan leader Nerissa laughed out loud. For someone who impulsively blurts out the truth at the most inopportune times, you really do have a knack for lying. She joked. It is all for his clan credit, though. So you might as well finish the estimate before we get started. The elder frowned at the thought of assigning so many clan credits to one single person. It was tens of thousands in total, with this many pieces. Some of them might be trash, mixed stats to the point of uselessness, or mutually exclusive bonuses. But most of it should be at least somewhat useful. At least as long as whatever glitch had happened in the dungeon hadn't caused any major issues with this higher-grade gear. The first piece he picked up made him reconsider that estimation. Staff of End Times Peerless Grade, Immortal Rank, increases Apocalypse damage by 200% of base attack. Increases the user's fire element damage by 50%. There was definitely nothing wrong with that. What he didn't know was that it wasn't even the good one. Remy had already claimed a similar one, and she was arguing with Hawk about who got to keep it. Naturally, she believed that she was the clear winner, as Hawk had no hands to hold a staff, while she had 4. But Hawk's argument that she wasn't even a fire magic user had some valid points. What is this? I've never seen an armor piece before. The warehouse elder pondered as he stared at a set of gloves. Germaphobe gloves. Wearer is immune to non-ingested poison and disease-type effects. Secondary effect. Wearer's clothes will not retain contaminants. They weren't even a combat item, unless you counted the poison immunity as additional defense. The gloves didn't even seem to have an armor or defensive stat. They were simply gloves that made you immune to poison and disease. Well, I suppose they're unconventional, but situationally amazing. If you wear a mask, you could pass through the toxic traps in most trials and hidden realms with ease. He decided then noted the trade in value for a support item of this grade. It took him a full 15 minutes to get through the pile and come up with a total value, which he showed to the clan leader without saying anything. Well, I see your point. That is moderately problematic. Usually, nobody could accumulate that much all at once. It does make exchanging the points for goods problematic. She agreed. Carl shrugged. I can agree not to go overboard. The only thing that I really need right now is a bunch of bard class skill books. Tion, my little fox, wants to become a proper bard now that he has musical skills to go with his innate magic. Getting him a handful of spell books should cut down on the total balance fairly well, and it will only take a few workdays of the inscription team's time. It wouldn't even come close to making a difference unless Tion found an ultra-rare or epic grade bard skill that he wanted. But it was a start. The problem was that he wasn't actually a bard, and none of them knew if he could even use the skills he wanted. Chapter 1608. Did I do something? So, am I going to put these into the warehouse with a limited access tag, so only the elders see them for the next 24 hours? Or should we just call them all here to take a look at what is available and have their arguments in person, instead of through me as a proxy? The warehouse elder asked. Kara raised her hand, and the clan leader laughed. That's one vote for making them all do it in third person, using you as a proxy. Did I do something to make you hate me? Why do you think I don't like you? You seem like a pretty good guy. The two stared at each other for a few seconds before the elder gave up and decided not to try to understand why Kara would make things difficult for him. Let's bring the elders over. It will be much faster that way, and then they can't complain later that they didn't know a piece they wanted was available. Every time I put things up on the reserve for elders, someone whines that they were busy when it went up. The warehouse elder insisted.
All right.
Carl, Dana, take your friends and head back to whatever you were planning for the day. It's already crowded in here, and the elders can be a bit intense with their auras when they are arguing. The clan leader insisted. Dana immediately grabbed Tion and took Kara's hand, leading the group toward the exit, while Carl made sure that the badger hadn't pilfered anything important from the two elders. Oddly, she hadn't taken anything at all, but that was all part of the plan. Get the elders to trust her just enough to get close to the fun stuff. Then, chaos. It was a brilliant plan, and they fell for it every single time. Carl tried not to laugh at her thoughts as he ushered everyone out of the clan leader's house. Dana was well aware of her plans, but knew that no matter how hard she tried to stop her, Kara would find a way to do it anyhow. So, she was simply removing her from the situation, so the answer to the question of when it would become a problem was not right now. They didn't make it far before they ran into Cora, the warrior who sold Tion his new zither. Good to see you all again. I take it that you didn't find a way to get us all to the dungeon? She asked. Dana shook her head. Unfortunately, no. There is a barrier over the area preventing portals, and the sect leaders of a few powerful sects are fighting over who gets to go in now that it's nightmare mode. That's a bit of an issue. Nobody expected the whole trial to change just because we got a good mode. But now that it has, we're likely going to have to wait at least a day until they've finished arguing and work out a deal to get things going again. If nobody gets in, the whole spawn is a waste, and I don't think that any of them are going to be willing to risk that. They just want to show each other up. Cora sighed. Yeah, it's always like that when the big sects start to fight with each other. But that doesn't mean it's a total loss for us. In order to limit each other, they will put other clans into the queue between each other's teams. So, we can likely get at least one or two of our stronger teams in. The lineup will be insane, far more clans than usual, so I wouldn't count on more than one a day, but we should at least be able to send a full team of elders through to get loot. If they come back with good stuff, they'll definitely share it with the clan. They always do. Well, after they've picked out the best stuff for themselves and their personal disciples. Cora understood the situation very well, though she didn't know that it was Carl and not the elders who had managed to get a run in and come back with a bunch of great gear. What are your plans for the day, if we can't get another run in?
Carl asked.
I have sorted the loot from the last run and got a couple of upgrades, so I'm going to trade a few pieces to the warehouse for credits, then straight off to the skill repository. Right, you're still a base warrior. Did you have something in mind?
Carl asked.
Cora shook her head. No, I just don't want to be a basic warrior or a paladin. I'm sure that I can find a skill that will let me be something good. It's just going to be expensive. However, with a few epic grade items, I can almost definitely afford it. Trading a few pieces of gear for a skill is totally worth it if I can trigger a better class. Given another few months for the rest of the clan to pick a path, I think that we're going to start seeing some real progress. Maybe we won't be referred to the newbies everywhere we go. Tion giggled in Dana's arms. But it's the new home merchant clan. Even if we weren't new, they'd still call us the newbies. Cora patted his head. You're a wise little fox. They certainly would still call us the newbies, even if it was just because it irritates us. There is nothing that most of these combat sect love more than picking fights. Oh, so it's a whole sect full of Kara?
Leo asked.
Cora burst into laughter. I don't think that the world would survive 10,000 copies of your sister running around together. No, they're just mean people who like to fight, not chaos badgers who start fights because they failed at whatever they thought was going to be fun. Leo nodded slowly as he memorized that information. Got it. So they get in fights the bad person way. In that case, they should likely meet Sister Ray. She's very good at dealing with that sort of people. Cora patted him on the back. We can explain the details later, but there are some of them that I wouldn't be upset about never seeing again. Now, where are you all off to? Tion needs bard skills. So, it's time to go to the book place again. Chapter 1609. Tion needs skills. Cora smiled at Leo. Well, why don't I walk with you to the skill repository? It's on the way to my apartment. Leo raised an arm dramatically to point down the road. Forward. We have adventures to go on. Cora laughed at the little tortellin and followed as his stubby legs ran toward the repository. Leo is in a fine mood today. She noted. Of course, he's got such a great story to tell all the students when he gets back to school tomorrow, and then there's the new equipment that he got. He's had a very busy week. Well, I can't argue with that. It's good for him, though. Getting a young boy out to see the world and meet new people are vital to their development. If you just keep them at home, slaving away with schoolwork, they never really develop that sense of self-preservation that immortals need when they start going out into the world alone. The chances of Leo ever truly going out into the world alone when he had a family like this were pretty low. But the sentiment was right. I will work on expanding his worldview. He's actually very young, much younger than a human of his development. So, there is a lot that Leo hasn't had a chance to see yet. He's seen plenty of combat, but when it comes to human relations and social interactions, he's got some work to do. After all, he's not really Tortellin. Cora nodded. Yeah, even a false island giant turtle doesn't immediately learn to transform into a humanoid. But interacting with people who probably can't understand you as a turtle is a lost cause. Tion was paying no attention to them. He was thinking hard about all the skills that he was going to need. He needed a morale buff and a combat buff and a not combat buff and some sort of alternate damage skill and maybe a wide area fox charm spell. Bards should be able to do that, right? Their first problem came when they tried to enter. Miss, no pets are allowed in the repository, the attendant informed them. Not even cute ones? I need skill books. Tion pleaded. Sorry, little fox. You are not a clan member, according to my sheet, and only one person may enter at a time. This posed a problem for Tion. He wanted to stay in Dana's arms, as she smelled like fox and floral soap. But if only one could enter, that meant he had to be in his space. And that meant Carl had to be the one to take him inside. You have gotten spoiled. Dana teased him. It's so comfortable here, though. Dana poked him in the side, and Tion sighed before returning to his space, so Carl could do the shopping for him. He would give guidance when he found things he wanted, but being stuck in his space wasn't nearly the same as having Dana carry him. Maybe he should learn a summoning spell so that he could have a warm fox lady cuddle him while he napped in his space? That might be nice. Alright, I will go in to pick out the skills. I know what he needs. Carl explained as the little fox vanished from Dana's arms. What sort of skills do you need? The clerk asked. Basic bard class skills. Tion wants to diversify his skills.
Carl explained.
Alright, first floor, halfway down on the right. Musical skills are closer to the middle, while bard class combat skills are near the wall. Thanks. Carl made his way into the main floor of the repository and quickly checked his system interface to make sure that he had enough clan credits. They hadn't processed the last batch of loot yet, so he hadn't been credited for it. But he still had hundreds of credits, and even if Tion bought the whole basic bard skill tree, they should be fine. It was only the rare skills that would hurt the budget. Don't worry, I don't think that anything I need is rare. It's all the basic skills a bard should have that I need. You'll know when I see it. Tion assured him. The fox wasn't worried about the cost. Carl could get them more points to buy stuff with. But he didn't want to waste time when he could grab the skills he really wanted and then get straight to practicing them. The bard section wasn't actually labeled, but there were labels for musical skills on the shelves they reached first. Oh, there they are. These are the first ones I needed. See, we have Inspiration and then Dissonant Whispers. Oh, Hymn of Heroism. Sounds like it could be good too. Having heroes on the team is never wrong. Carl took the 3 spells off the shelf and stacked them under one arm as they shopped. Inspiration adds 40% attack speed per mortal rank for all allies in range. Dissonant Whispers causes mental damage to the target, 10% chance to cause insanity. Hymn of Heroism increases skill damage by 50% of base for all allies who hear the hymn. That's a pretty good start. You've got 2 good buffs for the group and then a musical damage spell. Carl noted. Yep, good start. Then we just need a few more. There has to be something else that I need. Carl sorted through the shelves, but found that most of the musical skill books were actually for music, not utility. There were at least 50 variations of a spell to fascinate crowds with your music, but none of them rose to the level of an actual enthrall effect. That was likely going to be up in the rare books on the 2nd level. Let's see what we have for fighting. Tion decided. These songbooks were interesting but for later. He didn't need to learn new songs and spells for performing in public right now. He wasn't trying to be an idol. He wanted to make himself more useful to the group during times when they didn't need his healing constantly. He could attack with earth magic, but they didn't really need more attack magic. They had lots with Ray around. Chapter 16:10. Got the skills. Carl made his way up to the 2nd level and began the hunt for a rare skill that would help Tion with his goal of becoming the group's utility buff person. They had potions, defensive buffs, and plenty of damage, so the fox wanted to carve out his own niche on the team. There was so little that the team didn't already have that he had to really work to provide a function that wasn't just stacked on top of something that everyone else already had. Even his Hymn of Heroism was just another straight skill damage buff. But when they were in a large group, or among allies that weren't part of the group, he could play his songs and activate that hymn to give everyone on their team a big bonus. That was definitely something that the others didn't already grant. Inspiration was a lot of extra attack speed, and they all needed some of that as he had learned in the Demon Dungeon. Some of the fights were so fast that even Dana's auto parry was struggling. And that was no good. They searched slowly through the 2nd floor, looking at all the extremely situation-specific skill books for bards, and then finally found what they were looking for, tucked back in a corner. Fox God Charm creates an enthrall effect on any target that hears the song. Enthralled targets will forget their allegiance and stop all attacks on the caster's allies. Enthralled targets may be commanded to take actions, but actions that cause harm to the target will break the charm. Now that is beautiful. We might have to teach it to Dana as well, as it doesn't specify that it needs an instrument to cast. If it's functional for all foxes, it should work for her, and then she can charm her way into having people stop bothering her. Carl suggested. Oh, that's a good use. I was thinking of using it to let us get close or walk past annoying things, so that's kind of the same. I wonder if there is a hypnosis, one that will enthrall without breaking when they are attacked. I will look for it. There should be something like that here. Hypnosis-type spells aren't all that rare for mages, so they shouldn't be too hard for bards. Ah, there it is. Song of Control. I wonder if there were other ones and we just overlooked them because they had strange names? A lot of these bard spells are pretty vague. Carl wondered. Song of Control, mental domination effect, forces the target to obey the caster while the song is playing. Improved effect against weakened minds. Tion was overjoyed. They had found everything that he came here for, and even a bonus one that he could share with the Dana mage. But even better, He now had a reason to sing and play music while the group was in battle. He could even heal while he did it, since his heals didn't require movement. With the books now in hand, Carl headed for the entryway to make his payment and let everyone else know that they had found what they needed. All right, we're ready to check out. The clerk looked up, startled by Carl's quick return. Did you manage to find what you wanted? She asked carefully. Indeed. I found 5 different tomes, and they're all suitable for what Tion needed. Don't worry, I know the no refunds policy if he can't use the books directly to learn the skills. Carl had actually seen that Tion could use them when he picked them up. The system interface informed him of the compatibility at the same time that it told them what the skill did. All right, if you're certain. I have deducted the credits for you. She looked a bit startled as she saw the balance in Carl's clan credit section, but didn't question it and just watched as Tion came out and took the first book from Carl's hands. Fox God Charm was learned without incident, and the Tion spun in happy circles on the desk. That was the most important one for him to learn. Not because it was the most powerful, but because it was a song to the fox god. Now that he had that one learned, he could move on to the others and quickly learned Inspiration, Dissonant Whispers, Hymn of Heroism, and Song of Control. Now I've got enough basic skills to go with Vicious Mockery, he announced proudly. Dana patted his head. Indeed you do. You even got a buff to help us attack faster. Sister Ray is going to love that skill. I wanted it for your auto parry. Us fluffy creatures need to stick together. Dana laughed and stroked his back. You're right. We're far too cute to be getting beat up by dungeon mobs. The clerk at the counter began to laugh. I see how it is now. The fox and the foxkin are on the same team. Carl winked at her. That's why I marred my Dana mage. Now, she can't run off with my fox. The clerk laughed at the sight of Tion cuddled up in Dana's arms. The beast was most likely bonded to Carl, but it was apparent that the foxskin mage was his favorite. Not that she could blame him. With fox charm and whatever perfume it was that she was wearing, even the clerk found it hard not to want to stand closer to her. To a stone-fur divine fox, that had to be nearly irresistible. But that should work both ways. The tiny fluff ball was also incredibly tempting, and she had heard from her friend Min that he was actually quite adorable when he was trying to be helpful. The Green Dragon's reenactment of Tion's version of Vicious Mockery had been hilarious. But apparently the butterfly in the team was going to put on a whole illusionary show for them, reenacting the dungeon run that had brought the supply warehouse's most popular counter clerk newfound riches.